Hi guys, my name is Nikhil and you're watching Excel in Excel. In today's episode, we'll be looking at a topic which is pretty famous in Excel, which is creating pivot tables. Some people also call it PO tables. So just before I start explaining what they are and how to use them, just remember there are going to be timestamps in this video, so you can always jump in and out wherever you feel like. And towards the end, I will also talk about a few things that help me. You can consider them as a few bonus tips, and I hope that you enjoy this episode. So yeah, basically, pivot tables are nothing but it's a tool that helps you slice data. It's a tool that is used for analysis when you have tons of data. So, for example, that you see on your screen, the sheet that you see has data up to like say just 245 lines. This is just a food sample, food sales sample that I've taken off the internet. So I have different cities, I have different categories, bars, cookies, crackers, snacks, for example. I have different products and I have different quantities they're sold at, and I also have the unit price, right? So all you have to do to create a pivot table is you can also actually use this link that you have recommended pivot tables, although I don't use them. But once you click that, you see Excel is pretty smart. It's going to pick up your data and give you a few samples of how you could use pivot tables for your needs. So if you already have something on your mind and you see it right here, you could always choose one of these options. But what I like to do is I like to create the pivot tables by myself. So I would just select all the data. And I just did this by, again, reminding you, I press Control Shift and I press the right arrow and I press the down arrow. So with that, I select all the data that is available on the sheet. And then I go to Insert and then I go to Pivot Table. And when I choose this, I can choose that I need the pivot table in a new worksheet, or I could have it also in an existing worksheet, yeah? But I'm here now, I'm gonna choose a new worksheet. So once I click OK, I get nothing. I get a blank sheet. But what is interesting here is this is the pivot table, right? And I have on your right, I don't know if you can see them clearly, but I'm going to minimize my Excel file so that you can see this along with my face. You have four different boxes. You have a filters column, you have filters, columns, rows, and values. So what you could ideally do is you could choose, just give me a second, you could choose what field you want in which box. Yeah. So for example, I want to choose the product as a row. So once I do that, I see that all my products are coming in these rows here. And if I want to see the total quantity, I would just put it in values, for example. So as you can see, what Excel quickly did for me is just it's taken all the quantities and showed this to me in a very simple tabular form, but it's also pretty powerful once you want to analyze this. What you could also maybe include is the total price, for example, and you'll see the sum of the total price come up here. If you choose the unit price, you'll see the sum of unit price, which is not very useful, I would say, because you don't want to get the sum of a unit price. You just want to maybe get the total price as a sum. I'm just going to exclude unit price for now. But what is also interesting is that you could use something in the filters option here. So if I choose the region and I put it under filters, all I can do is, I have two regions here. I have an east and west coastline, for example. If I just choose east here and I press OK, all the numbers will sort of be displayed only for the east region. Similarly, if I do this for west, you'll see that I'll just have the data amended based on the sales I have for all these food products in only the west region, right? So once I press OK, once I select all, I have the summation of both the regions in a way. What you could also do is break it down by city and add a few rows here. So what you see here is the product comes on top, the city comes on bottom, right? So you have the product here, for example, and they're split by region. You could also move these around. So I'm just clicking product and I'm dragging it down. So what happens now is my view is sort of the top level is by the city, and then I have the products being displayed under each city in that manner. Yeah, I think this is pretty much what pivot tables do for you. And just a bonus tip, which I think I experience sometimes, um, in my line of work, is having a different view of things. Yeah. So for example, if I take unit price, and as you can see, I have options here: sum of quantity, sum of total price, sum of unit price. Like I mentioned, if I don't want to uh, have the sum of unit price, I want to have the count. What count does, and I'll show you how to do that. So you just click on this button, you go to value field settings, and instead of having the sum of all the unit prices, I could maybe have the average. And once I do that, I get the average. It seems to be very odd. But if I just try to have the count, I'll get the count. That means these are the number of lines. uh, I know it doesn't really fit in with what we're looking for, but my idea was just to show you how you could display not just the sum of things, you could also display the average, the max, the min, and all of that. Yeah. So I'm just gonna move it back to sum, and I'm gonna take this value out of my view. The other thing I want to show you is just to have a different view in the pivot table sometimes. And you will see that you'd only use this once you're stuck in a situation like this. But I still want to just maybe briefly talk about it. So if I just have maybe this view, which I was showing previously, if I have, say, the city view and the products, but you see these fields over here are empty, and sometimes your data might just show you something like this, when you have totals displaying and so on. If you don't want to do that, you can always right click and you can uncheck the subtotal city option, for example. And then if you go to pivot tables options here, and if you go to display, yes, if you go to display and you choose classic pivot table options layout, so just check that box and you'll have sort of a better view, which is like a tabular view, but it's like your pivot tables just acting like some other data, but you can still move them around, right? And also sometimes that I like to see is instead of having these empty boxes here, I still want to see Boston right next to each product, for example, because sometimes when I'm copy and pasting data, these fields will be empty, right? So there's a quick way to do that. If you can just right click and go to field settings, and over here just make sure that you select repeat item labels, and once you do that, you see this is how your data looks like. Yeah, so this is it for this episode. I hope your Excel journey has become a little bit better by knowing these functions, and especially the pivot table, because it's going to be very useful once you start analyzing your data, which again is really helpful when you have tons and tons of data. This is Nikhil checking out, and I will see you soon.